Alright, let's talk about Japan, the land of sushi, sumo, cherry blossoms, and a truly monumental pile of government debt. Japan is famous for its culture, its technology, and its resilience. But there's one thing lurking in the background that's not so celebrated. Its staggering national debt. Japan's national debt is over 2.5 times the size of its entire economy. To put that in perspective, imagine owing more than double everything you earn in a year, except this is an entire country. That's not just bad. It's a financial time bomb, quietly ticking away beneath the surface of daily life. For years, this seemed manageable because interest rates were near zero, thanks to the Bank of Japan's ultra-loose monetary policy. The government could borrow and spend without worrying about huge interest payments, and the economy kept humming along. It was like having a mountain of credit card debt, but with almost no interest. As long as the rates stayed low, the burden felt light, even if the numbers were eye-watering. But now, those days are ending. The era of super cheap money is drawing to a close as global interest rates rise and inflation creeps in. Suddenly, borrowing isn't so painless anymore, and the cost of servicing that debt is starting to climb. Suddenly, that debt mountain looks a lot scarier. What once seemed like a manageable problem now threatens to overwhelm the government's finances, putting pressure on everything from public services to social safety nets. This isn't just a problem for economists or politicians. It could affect every Japanese citizen, from the price of ramen noodles at your favorite shop to the quality of healthcare in local hospitals. Everyday life could get more expensive, and government support could shrink. The national attitude of "it'll work out somehow" is being tested as financial reality sets in. People are starting to worry about their savings, their jobs, and their future as headlines grow more alarming. The world is watching to see how Japan handles this ticking debt bomb. Economists, investors, and governments everywhere are paying close attention because Japan's choices could set off a chain reaction, and everyone should be sweating because what happens in Japan could ripple across the globe. If Japan stumbles, it could shake financial markets, disrupt trade, and even trigger crises in other countries. In our interconnected world, Japan's debt isn't just their problem, it's everyone's concern. Meet the Bank of Japan, the country's financial DJ, spinning the tunes that set the rhythm for the entire Japanese economy. For decades, the BOJ has been at the heart of Japan's financial system, orchestrating policies that have shaped everything from the cost of borrowing to the value of the yen. Their signature track? Easy money. The Bank of Japan has been famous for keeping the money flowing, making sure cash was always available and interest rates stayed ultra low. This approach was designed to fight off deflation and keep the economy moving, even when times were tough. For years, the BOJ kept interest rates at rock bottom and bought up government bonds by the trillions of yen, making borrowing cheap and easy for everyone, from big corporations to everyday families. This policy helped the government fund massive stimulus packages and infrastructure projects, all while keeping the cost of debt low. It was like an endless open bar of zero-interest loans, where the drinks never stopped coming. The government could spend freely, and businesses could borrow without worrying about high interest payments. For many, it felt like the party would never end. But now, the music is changing. In March 2024, the BOJ raised rates for the first time in 17 years, a move that sent shockwaves through financial markets and signaled a dramatic shift in policy. Suddenly, the era of free-flowing money was coming to an end. Alongside the rate hike, the BOJ is also scaling back its massive bond-buying program. This means less support for government debt and a new reality for investors and policymakers alike. The central bank is stepping back, forcing the market to stand on its own 2 feet. The government can no longer rely on the BOJ to buy its debt at any price. Now it must convince investors to lend money, often at higher interest rates. This marks a fundamental change in how Japan finances its massive public debt. Investors, sensing the shift, will demand higher returns to take on the risk. That means higher borrowing costs for the government, which could ripple through the entire economy, affecting everything from mortgage rates to business loans. This shift is a big deal. It's like changing the rules of the game after decades of playing by the same playbook. Suddenly, everyone from government officials to business leaders must adapt to a new set of challenges and uncertainties. The government now faces a tough balancing act. Keep the economy stable and growing, while managing the rising costs of its enormous debt. Every decision will be scrutinized, and the margin for error is shrinking. The era of easy money is over, and the risks are rising. If borrowing becomes too expensive, it could slow down growth, strain public finances, and even threaten financial stability. Japan's financial safety net is shrinking, leaving less room to maneuver if another crisis hits. The cushion that once protected the economy is wearing thin. The consequences could be huge if the transition isn't handled carefully. Japan stands at a crossroads, and the world is watching to see how it navigates this new era of higher rates and tighter money. Let's break down government bonds. Think of them as IOUs. Japan borrows money by selling bonds, promising to pay back with interest. The yield is the return investors get. When bond prices fall, yields rise, making borrowing more expensive. The BOJ used to buy tons of these bonds, keeping prices high and yields low. Now, with the BOJ stepping back, demand drops, prices fall, and yields go up. Higher yields mean the government pays more to borrow new money. If yields double, so do interest costs on new debt. This isn't just a technicality, it's the heart of Japan's current problem. Rising yields set the benchmark for all government borrowing. The more yields climb, the more Japan pays just to keep the lights on. It's a precarious situation, like a Jenga tower that's starting to wobble. Every move matters, and the stakes are enormous. The BOJ's retreat is sending shockwaves through Japan's finances. The cost of borrowing is only going up from here. Rising yields mean rising borrowing costs for Japan's government. Think of it as your mortgage payments suddenly jumping. Debt servicing costs are the annual payments on all that debt, and they're already a huge part of the budget. As old bonds mature, Japan issues new ones at higher rates, locking in bigger interest payments for years. Even a small increase in rates means billions more in interest every year. This isn't a distant worry. It's happening now. Each tiny uptick in rates adds 1 trillion yen or more to annual costs. That's money that could have gone to healthcare, education, or disaster relief. Instead, it vanishes into the black hole of interest payments. The fiscal squeeze is real, and it's getting tighter. Japan's budget is being eaten alive by debt costs. The government's financial headache is turning into a full-blown migraine. Japan isn't just another country with a debt problem, it's the world champion. Its debt-to-GDP ratio is around 260%, far higher than Europe or the US. For years, ultra-low interest rates made this mountain of debt seem manageable. But as rates rise, the cost of servicing that debt is exploding. Japan spends more on interest than many countries spend on their entire budgets. This money doesn't build schools or fund pensions, it just pays for past borrowing. As interest rates climb, debt service crowds out everything else. Japan's ability to act is being strangled by its own debt. The higher rates go, the heavier the burden becomes. It's like running a marathon with a piano strapped to your back. Japan's vulnerability to rising rates is unique and dangerous. The bill for decades of easy borrowing is finally coming due. Enter fiscal consolidation. Governments speak for tightening the belt. It means spending less and/or raising taxes to slow the growth of debt. That could mean cuts to public projects, social programs, or even freezing wages. Or it could mean higher taxes on income, sales, or corporations. The goal? Reduce the budget deficit and stop the debt from ballooning. For Japan, even just stabilizing the debt would be a big win. Experts are urging tough choices to put public finances on a sustainable path. It's like your doctor telling you to eat healthier. You know it's necessary, but it won't be fun. Fiscal consolidation is about facing reality before it's too late. The alternative is letting debt and interest costs spiral out of control. On May 27, 2025, Japan's Fiscal System Council sounded the alarm. This official advisory panel told Finance Minister Katsunobu Kato, rising interest rates are a severe threat to public finances. Their message was blunt. Japan needs to wake up and act now. As the BOJ steps back, bond yields are climbing and debt costs are surging. The council's prescription? Get serious about fiscal consolidation, cut spending, control the deficit, and stabilize the debt. The old playbook of relying on the BOJ is finished. The council's warning is clear, the road is running out, and there's a fiscal cliff ahead. Finance Minister Kato now faces tough decisions. The experts say the time for delay is over. Japan must act before the debt burden becomes unmanageable. The stakes couldn't be higher. What if Japan ignores the warnings and keeps spending as usual? Debt servicing costs will keep rising, eating up more of the budget. That means less money for healthcare, education, and public services. If spending cuts aren't made, taxes will have to go up. Nobody likes that. Higher taxes can slow the economy, making the debt problem even worse. Inaction could trigger a loss of investor confidence, forcing rates even higher. In a worst-case scenario, Japan could face a fiscal crisis, runaway inflation, emergency austerity, or worse. The Fiscal System Council's warning is a last chance to avoid disaster. The choice is between tough action now or much more pain later. Ignoring the problem won't make it go away. The clock is ticking. Japan stands at a financial crossroads, burdened by decades of debt. The country's economic miracle, once the envy of the world, has given way to a new era of uncertainty. For years, Japan has relied on borrowing to fund its ambitions, but now, the consequences of those choices are becoming impossible to ignore. The Bank of Japan's era of easy money is ending, and rising interest rates are making debt much more expensive. What was once manageable is now a growing burden, as the cost of servicing debt climbs higher with every tick upward in rates. This shift marks a turning point for the nation's finances, and the effects are rippling through every corner of society. This isn't just a problem for economists or politicians. It affects everyone in Japan. From young families trying to make ends meet, to retirees relying on pensions, the impact of rising debt and interest payments is felt in daily life. The choices made in government offices echo in the homes and workplaces of ordinary people. The Fiscal System Council's warning is a call to action. Rein in spending, raise revenues, and manage the nation's finances responsibly. These are not easy tasks, but they are necessary to prevent the situation from spiraling out of control. The Council's message is clear. Japan must act now to secure its future. If ignored, more and more of the national budget will be eaten by interest payments, leaving less for the things that matter most: public services, infrastructure, and support for the vulnerable. The government will have fewer resources to invest in the future, and the burden on taxpayers will only grow heavier. That could mean painful cuts to healthcare, education, and pensions, or higher taxes for everyone. Hospitals may struggle to provide care, schools could face budget shortfalls, and the elderly might see their benefits reduced. At the same time, working families could be asked to pay more just to keep the system afloat. Doing nothing risks a fiscal crisis that could shake the entire country. A loss of confidence in Japan's finances could trigger market turmoil, job losses, and a decline in living standards. The stability that generations have worked to build could be threatened in a matter of months. The choices made now will shape Japan's future for generations. Today's decisions will determine whether young people inherit opportunity or struggle, and whether families can look forward to a brighter tomorrow. Will Japan be weighed down by debt, or will it build a stable, prosperous future? The path forward is uncertain, but the stakes could not be higher. The nation must decide whether to confront its challenges head-on or risk being overwhelmed by them. The answer depends on the courage and foresight of its leaders and the willingness of its people to face hard truths. It will take bold decisions, shared sacrifice, and a commitment to the common good to turn things around. The stakes are high and the world is watching. Other nations are looking to Japan as a test case for how to handle aging populations and mounting debt. The lessons learned here could shape global policy for years to come. The time to act is now. Japan's future hangs in the balance, and the decisions made today will echo for decades. The world is waiting to see what path